Hello, everyone. Me again. So I decided to come up with a little of a small little expansion to the project, but this time it's actually going to be a little different. In this live stream, I plan on discussing the origins of Dark Sparkle, who's right here. Now, to be fair, I also plan on doing the origins of Shadow Rainbow Dash. I don't have to show you her because you already, if you actually seen my previous live stream, then you know exactly who I'm referring to. But to those who don't know, I guess I'll just show it to you here. But many of you, I'm sure, know who she is already. But here she is. This is Shadow Dash, who, believe it or not, was created through a spell from Dark Twilight Sparkle, and it's basically Dark Twilight Sparkle's daughter. Just like Spike is the real Twilight Sparkle's adopted son, and I've already expressed my concern on why I will never call her a sister to Twilight to Spike because one, it's like I stated, calling Twilight, the sister of Spike is no different than pretty much saying that she gave birth to him. Now I know Twilight did not lay the egg, but in a way she didn't have to because she still hatched it. And who did Spike first see when he came out of that egg as a mom? Twilight. So basically, you know, it's like I stated before, you have to be an idiot to actually think she's a sister. But continuing. Now, going on basically where I left off is that Dark Twilight Sparkle's origins dates all the way back to 2039. At that time, the prophecy of Godzilla Team was still occurring. Basically, hang on, I'm on the YouTube live streaming now. Give me a give me a second, guys. I just have to do something real quick. All right, now, all right, now that that's taken care of. All right, now, oh, holy shit! All right, now that that's taken care of. All right, now, oh, holy shit! All right, now that that's taken care of. All right, sorry about that. I had too many freaking versions open. So yeah, as I was stating, going back to Dark. Hey, what's up, Catboy? So as I was saying, going back to Dark Twilight Sparkle's past, apparently she was created through the mixed emotions of Twilight's negative energy. Yeah, that's right. This version that you see here should have never existed. This version that you see was Twilight Sparkle in the beginning of Friendship is Magic, before she discovered friendship and before she became the Ponyville. Dark Sparkle was literally a mix of all of Twilight Sparkle's bad emotions, from her rudeness, her incompetence, and her pretty much, inability to find friends at the time. But take that and multiply it in the double digits. That's basically what happened at the time period during Dark Sparkle's first time when she was created. Unfortunately, that wasn't the end either, because when she was actually created, a lot of things hit the fan. Dark Sparkle, she actually, huh? I know Sky, I know Sky Quake. What's up, man? Nice seeing you here. Uh, you guys give me a second. I gotta close the door. My stupid dog won't shut up, and I don't want you to keep going crazy when you have to hear him. All right. Okay, sorry about that. Now I'm back. So yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, during the time period, Dark Sparkle, when she was created, she was complete. She was actually created entirely by accident. Basically, this was a spell that went horribly wrong on Twilight's part. One that could not be reversed. Now, Twilight had already been an alicorn at the time of Dark Sparkle's creation, which is why you see Dark Sparkle doesn't have wings yet. But you could see the real Twilight Sparkle right here. So basically, this is Dark Sparkle before she became an alicorn. Now, how did she become an alicorn? Well, basically, it turns out that at some point after Dark Sparkle's defeat in 2039, she was reborn again. Now, the cause of her second rebirth was never known, but it was actually stated that she was reborn again at some point after the prophecy that killed Godzilla Team. Now, here's the sad part. Dark Sparkle is a bit of a manipulator. She is very tedious on her opponents, and she will actually also be very, very cruel on them. She could be a complete cunt to Twilight Sparkle and everyone else, including all the main six. And here's another thing, she has an obsession with Godzilla Team, which is not a joke. She actually wants Rivera as her Dark King, and she wants the other forms of Godzilla Team as her own personal army. In 2039, she had managed to actually, every time when Dark Sparkle struck, she instantly was the first thing that she always did was take control of Godzilla Team. That was all the time she happened. She did this 3 times. Once in 2039, a second time in 2051, and a third time in 2066, which is basically the project and the newest event I came up with for New Godzilla Team. During that occasion, the reason she does this is because she wants all of Godzilla Team to herself. Now it's so basically I guess you could consider her almost like a little bit of a kind of like the as almost like the horror freaking Ponyville. I could tell you that. Unlike the real Twilight Sparkle, who actually has feelings for one of Godzilla Team. I won't say which now, but you know exactly which one it is. Those of you who have been watching or looking at my Wikipedia from the old times of back in 2011 to 2012 to 2013, you know exactly which one of Godzilla Team Twilight has feelings for. But during that occasion, Rivera, who's one of the members of Godzilla Team, is the second oldest. He was actually always the target for Dark Sparkle, because you could see in this old artwork I created from 2013, Rivera's right there, and basically, you know how it is. He was literally always Dark Sparkle's target. the one to always get the most. He was always the first, Showa was the second. Now, Israel was already dead at this time period. So unfortunately, she had no way of, controlling him in 2039. But Mecha King Ghidorah was still alive at the time, and Kuryu was still alive at the time. So basically, Godzilla Team was short two members by the time of Dark Sparkle's birth. Now, you're probably saying, how did she know about Israel's existence and Mandy's existence if they were dead already? Well, Dark Sparkle has no, pretty much not that much disattachments from her good counterpart, which is the real Princess Twilight Sparkle. Just like the real Princess Twilight Sparkle, Dark Sparkle is a bookworm herself. So basically, she's no different, only she's rude and incompetent compared to the original. So she was able to learn this through books and text and scrolls throughout Equestria. The same thing happened in 2051. She was actually able to learn of Godzilla Team's death while she was in a local area, when she was in an unidentified pub in Equestria. She was disguised at the time, and basically she was able to find out that all of Godzilla Team just was killed during the prophecy. So basically, in order to erase the damage, Dark Sparkle decided to resurrect them. Now, this, in my opinion, is going against nature itself because once something dies, even in Equestria, when something dies, it has to be left alone. You can't just automatically use magic to bring something back, because if that gets out of hand, a lot of villains and a lot of evil people, a lot of evil ponies, a lot of evil everything that's in Equestria, everybody could start bringing those things back, and it's going to lead to the destruction of the world of harmony to the point that not even Twilight and the main six are going to be able to handle it. And unfortunately, bringing somebody back from the dead is completely illegal in Equestria. You can't do that. That's great. I'm glad you're a Godzilla fan. I've been one since the 90s. That's what happens when you're 31, my friends. But anyway, as I was saying, when Dark Sparkle brought back, Godzilla Team, I don't really have to show you what they looked like because as you could see in this promotional art, which I already showed you in my last stream, but if you actually see in this promotional art, Godzilla Team was like this at the time. They were monsters in Equestria, but unfortunately, when they first showed up in Equestria in 2036, and I would like to retract my statements from my original live stream, I made a mistake and said it was 2039. That I apologize. They actually showed up in 2036. So yeah, I'm correcting myself now, and I apologize for that. It was 2036. They showed up. But continuing, they were actually this way during the time of the events of Godzilla Team, but they used to be but they used to have pony forms themselves. Even Kuryu had one, and that's this right here. And Mecha King Ghidorah had one. They used to have stallions. As a matter of fact, Showa right here was an alicorn. Israel right here was a unicorn. Rivero was a Pegasus. Kuryu was an alicorn. No, excuse me. Kuryu was a Pegasus. Sorry, my fault. And Mecha King Ghidorah was pretty much, an alicorn too. Only the metal section of the head had the horns, while the other two heads didn't have it. So basically, they used to be stallions at one point, but when they died, that magic was taken from them. So when Dark Sparkle brought them back, it brought them back as what they were supposed to be, monsters. And to all of you who wondered what they look like, even though I showed this to everybody, I want to show it now. The reason why that was so important is because at the time, Godzilla is literally undefeatable in Equestria. Now you're probably saying, "How is that possible? You got ponies that could blow up mountains, you got ponies that could cause a lot of Super Saiyan shit. How could they not defeat Godzilla or anyone else, right?" They can't. And let me explain. The reason they can't is mainly because the reason they can't is mainly because Godzilla Team is not from Equestria. They have different types of auroras compared to that of the World of Harmony. And they were also around longer before the World of Harmony. Now, I know you're probably going to argue against that. That's not true. You're probably going to say Equestria has been around for thousands of years. That is true. But that's in the equestrian lore. Equestria didn't come into existence until 2010. Rivera, Israel, and Showa had been around since 1954 all the way to 1962. Even the My Little Pony of the 80s wasn't in existence yet. So basically, these creatures are older than Equestria itself. And because of that, that's how they're able to withstand a lot of the impact of all of the equestrian magic. A prime example of this was Rivera. This is no joke because remember in the last stream I told you something about the 2037 incident, which actually led to the complete distrusting of Godzilla Team altogether. Basically, in 2037, a crystal was brought in Rivera's hand, and basically it corrupted him to the point he actually lost his stallion side and he became his normal side, and he literally obliterated most of Equestria. Nothing the ponies could do could stop him. Nothing. And Twilight was not a princess yet. She was still a unicorn at this time. So it's not like she could go with those godlike powers. She didn't have them yet. And back then it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because look at this. If you want to see images of the 2037 incidents, I'll be happy to show you. These old artworks you actually could see. Give me a minute. I just gotta find them. Nope, not those. Nope, not that one. Sorry, I gotta look through all of them. Here we go. Like here's a prime example right here. Look at this one. See Rivera over here? Look at the ponies. They look stunned because they've never seen anything like this before in Equestria. And here's another image of it. Look at this. You can see Twilight Sparkle devastated right here on a rock, and you can see Canterlot burning in the background, and you see Rivera with the crystals. In this next one of the 2037 disaster, you could actually see Luna crying, and you see Rivera in the background. He looks menacing and everything else. This happened in 2037 in Equestria. This was the first disaster where one of Godzilla team was actually able to be its normal self, even though Rivera wasn't in his right mind at the time. And look, you got the main six here on the rocks, and you have Rivera approaching them. Look at this. And then this is basically the last picture. You actually see Rivera, a wounded Rivera, basically being ripped to shreds by tentacles of an unidentified creature. You can see them right here. This is the plaque that represents them. This was on the third day of the disaster. After that one, you basically have one more image of Rivera, basically, during the time before he was actually defeated, approaching the Crystal Empire. You got every single one of the ponies making a last stand. Because at this point, on the third day, literally all of Equestria was destroyed. All of Equestria was destroyed. The only thing that was left was the Crystal Empire. Rivera had wiped everything out. All that was left was the Crystal Empire. Not even Tyreek, not even Nightmare Moon. None of those fucking villains caused as much damage as Rivera did in just 3 short days. Okay. So during that occasion, basically what happened is during that occasion, after the Crystal Empire disaster, there's an actual animation of it, but tragically I can't show it on here because if I were to do that, it would be reused content. So if any of you ever want to see the animation, because it was actually made by a good friend of mine who tragically I don't know anymore. He disappeared from the internet, but his name was Spawnzilla Final Wars. It was the only animation to represent the Crystal Empire disaster. And basically, the only way it came to a conclusion that when Rivera could not be stopped, Israel at one point, believe it or not, this was actually in the very year that Israel was supposed to die. During the time of the Crystal Empire disaster, Israel was actually suffering from a lot of health problems. The poor Heisei Godzilla was, suffering from severe, overheating. He was burning a lot on the inside. There were times that he actually collapsed in Pinkie Pie's arms. Like there were times that Pinkie Pie actually was not her normal silly, giggly, little girl self that she always is. And it got to the point that she literally had to sometimes be like almost like a strict girlfriend. Like, no, you're not going to go in there until you're better, showing that even Pinkie Pie could also have her limits. So during that occasion, it eventually came to the point that destroying the genre crystal was the largest crystal in Equestria, and it was actually claimed that destroying the genre crystal was the only way to wipe out all the damage Rivera had done, and that it would reset everything. Now, the genre crystal was actually created by Galactica. Galactica is Celestia and Luna's mother. It was created as a failsafe in case shit hit the fan in Equestria and the princesses could not do anything to save it. It was decided that you would destroy the genre crystal, it would reverse all of the damage. But there was a warning too. Once the genre crystal was destroyed, it could never be used again. So if let's say that so basically if they were to destroy the genre crystal in 2037, which they actually did succeed by the way, but if they were to destroy the genre crystal in 2037, let's say Rivera went crazy again, next time they're not going to be able to stop him. Fortunately, that's not the case. But as you can see right here, I'm going to pull up to all of you the Crystal Empire disaster so you could all see for your no 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 sorry not that one I don't want 3D sketch, stop with that crap. Looks like I'm gonna have to go to Brave. All right, give me a second guys, I gotta go to Brave because oh my god, I don't want that, stop giving me that. Here we go. Okay, so here we go. Now you're gonna see it. So now you're gonna actually see. No, you already saw Poseidon, but you're gonna actually see pretty much. You're actually gonna see the actual couple of new artworks that were also around at the time. Hang on, Incident of 2039. Just give me a second. I haven't been on here for so many years. I have to actually remember what the names were. It's like I stated, Godzilla Team hasn't been touched since 2018. Uh, Give me a minute. I know it's here somewhere. Here it is. The Crystal Empire disaster. Look, it began on November 2nd, 2037, and it ended on November 4th, 2037. It was 3 short days. 3 short days. That's how long it took before the world ended in Equestria. And as you could see pretty much in this one of the picture, you could actually see Rivera destroying a large group of crystals. You could see Princess, Celestia, wounded, and you could actually see enraged Luna crying in the background, and you could also see Candace right here. Now, if you actually go down, there's one image that you probably didn't see, and that's this one. When Rivera actually invaded Canterlot. Look at that. He actually destroyed the capital, the most supposedly strongest area of Equestria, in under just 10 minutes. Look at him. And Celestia right here actually tried to make a stand, but she was defeated. Not surprising. Basically, the Crystal Empire disaster was one of the worst disasters ever. But here is basically the one that's going to think you're going to get justice. As you can see in this picture right here, which is an older version of the previous one I showed you, you could actually see Rivera shooting his atomic breath at something off screen. But you could actually tell that it's something off screen because look at the tentacles. You notice that there's tentacles closing in on him. This was on the final day. And basically, during that occasion, Rivera was actually severely wounded to the point that he eventually had to start retreating out of the Crystal Empire. And I'm talking about wounded severely. Look at this shit right here. He's a bloody mess, and you could see him trying to limp back to the ocean with Celestia glaring in the background. And if you actually take a good look over here to where his shoulder is, it's gone. Those tentacles literally were powerful enough to rip his shoulder completely off. So basically, during that occasion, Rivera had to leave. He had to leave because at that point, the whole Crystal Empire was actually taking advantage of the fact that he was wounded, and they were literally, attacking him from all directions. And it got to the point he had to escape. He was literally, in hot pursuit by Princess Celestia. She was able to intercept the actual time. No, not yet. Skyquake, I haven't actually checked with Jade. I want to still give her a little bit of time. I'll check on her somewhere around 10. But anyway, during that occasion, I was actually Rivera was actually able to make it to the sea, but he was eventually defeated. And you're probably saying, what was that monster? What was the monster that brought down the Millennium Godzilla? Well, that's the scary thing. This monster was never officially seen. This is it right here. And if you could actually see in this template here, this is an actual drawing from the actual animation. As you could see the monster wrap its tentacles around, Rivera's neck and his wrist. And here are the tentacles when they're bare. Now, as you could see, during the first time, Rivera was according to the actual picture, you could actually see that Rivera actually was burning them off. That's because when they were bare, they were very, very vulnerable. But that's not the only thing they could do. Look what they became now after the first attempt failed. If you could actually see this, they became as sharp as razors, and they became almost like giant lances. And what happened to Rivera? This is what happened. Several of the tentacles forced themselves inside him. One in his wounded section of the chest, where he got the wound in Tokyo SOS, and another one in his neck. Basically, that's what led to his demise in the Crystal Empire incident, and that's why he had to retreat as fast as he could, because at that point, he was in a bloody mess at that time period. That was, my friends, the beast that was responsible for saving Equestria. But the sad thing is you don't see it. You don't know what it is. And fun fact, ever since this incident, Rivera developed a huge phobia of tentacles after that because these tentacles were actually able to rip straight through him. So during that occasion, Rivera was defeated. And that's basically what ended the 2037 disaster. Unfortunately, unfortunately the 2037 disaster was known as the biggest downfall of Godzilla team in Equestria history because all the damage, even though everything was reversed and the genre crystal was destroyed, not everybody was able not everybody was able to forget the disaster. So basically, during the occasions after Rivera was actually defeated, he was banished, of course, and he became extraordinarily hated by the ponies of Equestria. They kept rubbing 2037 in his face. They thought that Celestia was too kind to him, to be punished. They wanted him to be turned to ash and everything else. Even though he wasn't in his right mind at the time, he was warped by crystals. And that was the sad reality. He was warped by crystals. So basically, at the time when he was able to do this, Rivera was able to redeem himself in the end. Now, unfortunately, you still have a lot of people from ponies and everything else that still hate Rivera's guts because they have family members. But here's an actual scary twist that occurred that connects to the 2037 disaster. One that I'm sure all of you are probably going to be, whoa. This portrait right here is actually connected to the 2037 disaster. Just give me a second while I find it. Here it is. This picture right here, look at this. Now you're probably saying, what happened to Rivera's face? Where's his eyes? Where's his mouth? Where's everything? Well, that's where the scary part and the creepy part of this poster, of this picture, comes in. They stated that the actual artist, now basically, there was an artist that created this portrait, the one that you see right here. But there's a dark twist to this painting's creation. They stated that after the artist created this, he died. Now, it was not known what caused his death. Many suggest that the pony took himself out. Others suggested that Rivera broke in and destroyed him during the Crystal Empire disaster. But here's the twist. This is where the scary part of this portrait comes in. This pony, this unidentified artist pony, was actually able to create Rivera's exact appearance. And this was before the Crystal Empire disaster. Now, it was actually stated that perhaps that this pony might have actually believed and saw the future that Rivera was going to turn on Equestria, and he actually, out of paranoia, created that art piece. And when the empire and when the Crystal Empire disaster occurred, he took his own life in order not to fall victim to Rivera. Now, none of that has exactly been proven yet, but all I could say is that this picture has a terrible background. It has a terrible, terrible, and unsettling background. And to add insult to injury, Rivera actually saw that picture at one point, and he couldn't stop staring at it. And when Twilight Sparkle was able to get him to move again, you know, like a concerned girlfriend would, like, "What's wrong? Why aren't you moving?" Stuff like that. Rivera eventually actually stated that he felt negative energy coming from that picture, and he actually was able to suffer PTSD flashbacks from the events of the Crystal Empire disaster when he was destroying everything. So if you can actually get the point that Rivera's scared of that thing, you know exactly that painting is bad news. It is very bad news. It is a cursed artifact. But going back to Dark Sparkle, during the time of her reign in 2039, she reigned like for about a couple. I think she reigned like for about. Hang on, let me see. I kind of remember because I kind of have a bad memory. It was incident of 2037, if I'm correct. But incident. Sorry, 2039. Nope, not that one. Let me hang on. Give me a minute. All right, so it was actually okay. So her reign actually began on April 23rd, and she first died on April 29th, 23rd. Excuse me, and she first died on April 29th, 2039 of that same year. So basically, Dark Sparkle, she was basically she was known as the second worst villain of Equestria, even beyond Tyreek and even beyond Nightmare Moon. And the reason she was placed at the top was because she was an actual clone copy of Twilight Sparkle. And if she wanted, she could have easily framed Twilight Sparkle. Because she looks the same as the actual Princess of Magic. Now, the only thing is she couldn't do that in 2039 because at the time when she was created, she was a unicorn. It wasn't until 2051 where she became an alicorn, although it is unknown how that happened. But during the occasion, when before the events of the 2051 disaster, Dark Sparkle came up with the creation of Dark Shadow Dash. Dark Shadow Dash was actually, like I stated before in the beginning of this, Dark Shadow Dash was basically the daughter of Dark Sparkle because she was created through the use of black magic. The same way Twilight Sparkle hatched Spike and became a mom to Spike. Even though, but here's the difference between Dark Sparkle's motherhood, and Twilight Sparkle's motherhood. The difference between Dark Sparkle's motherhood compared to the original Twilight is because Dark Sparkle actually had a better chance to actually become a mom because she was actually able to create dark. She was actually able to create Shadow Rainbow Dash when she was an adult. So she actually had a huge advantage over the original Twilight Sparkle when because unfortunately in the original Twilight Sparkle, when she hatched Spike, she was a little girl at the time, and unfortunately she had to grow up quickly to become a mom to Spike when she was a child after she hatched Spike. So that was basically, the big advantage that Dark Sparkle had over her counterpart is the fact that she was actually able to create a child through dark magic where Twilight Sparkle could not at the time. So unfortunately, it's like I stated, and this is basically one of the most controversial scenes ever because I'm sure a lot of the Brony community are saying, why didn't Celestia take in Spike? Now many people are probably going to say that she did, but that's debatable because it's actually stated that ever since, Twilight Sparkle hatched Spike, basically she's been the one taking care of Spike, even when she was a little girl or Philly, as they would say in pony times. So unfortunately, like I stated, original Twilight Sparkle was first to become a mom at a very young age. So that is in a way tragic. This could also explain why Twilight Sparkle was rude and obnoxious in the early seasons of the series. Because she probably, was pissed off at the fact that she never really had that much of a childhood because she had to always watch Spike. So tragically, she but there was good news to this portion of Twilight being a mom at a young age because by doing this, she was actually able to immediately become a decent mother in the original series because look what happened. In the original series of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, when we all know Twilight is in her 20s, She was actually able to actually, be a decent mother to Spike, where at the time she probably had to get a lot of guidance from Celestia because, as a child herself, she didn't know how to do that. But she was actually able to become a decent mom at the time because guess what? She shows it in the series. Now, like I stated, so many people are gonna still think that she's the older sister, but like I stated, that is debatable on so many levels because, like I stated before, Twilight Sparkle being a sister to Spike is like the equivalent of basically Spike's sister giving birth to him. So, like I stated, even though Twilight did not lay the egg, she still hatched them. So tragically, she's a mom, whether the bronies whether the bronies want to admit it or not. She's Spike's mother. So basically, another thing for an example is basically the way she able to treat her niece. Now, I never watched the newer Equestria Girls, but I have seen a scene where basically the daughter of Candace in Shining Armor was acting up, and it got to the point that Twilight had to put her foot down and lose her temper to get this girl to stop. But if you actually take a good look at the original side effect, this is basically Twilight's maternal side coming out. This is basically, because remember, as a filly, she's been dealing with this since Spike. She has grown accustomed to this, and she realized that she cannot talk to basically, her niece as an aunt. She has to be strict the same way she was with Spike and show that and pretty much act motherly. That's the only way she was able to get her to stop her ways is when she act and got her maternal side back into her. That was how she was able to keep Spike out of trouble during the time when even though back then she was young. So now Dark Rainbow Dash and Dark Sparkle, they're completely different. They were completely different. When Dark Rainbow was created in 2051, she was actually created as an adult already. So, I guess you could say that Dark Sparkle didn't have to go through the torment of raising a child, which you would say that's pretty much of a chicken shit if you ask me. Twilight had to do it. How come she couldn't do it? But yeah, it is what it is. She was actually able to conceive during that time period. Dark Sparkle actually had, and that was another advantage Dark Sparkle had over her original side. Now, here's the thing though. As evil as this mare is, there is one thing that you need to know about Dark Sparkle. Yes, she's rude. Yes, she's obnoxious. And yes, she's evil and destructive and will destroy anyone that gets in her way or tries to take Godzilla Team from her. But there is one thing that she actually has that makes her a good villain, and that's the fact that even though as evil as she is, Dark Sparkle is indeed a good mom. You're probably saying, okay, I've lost my mind. Well, in reality, I think I did. But yes, she is a decent mother, and let me explain. During the time, even though Shadow Rainbow was created as an actual adult, she still has the mind of a filly. She has gotten into the position where she would get herself into trouble, and Dark Sparkle would scold her angrily, like what the hell you're doing and everything else. You could have been this, you could have been that. And basically, a prime example of this was basically during the time when Dark Sparkle was revived in 2066 on November 3rd, which is Godzilla's, aka Showa's, birthday. So basically, when she was revived, yes, she was thankful for being alive again, but she angrily scolded Shadow Dash, you know, you know, pretty much telling her like, what were you thinking? You could have been killed, everything else. Because remember, unlike Dark Sparkle here, Shadow Dash has no power. The only thing she could do is fly at fast speed. That's it. She can't do anything. She can't perform magic. She can't possess a shield. She can't do anything. But it's like I said, the only reason she was able to defeat Godzilla Team was through the use of a large emitter that created a large, powerful noise that caused pain to all of Godzilla Team. That's how she was able to defeat them. Godzilla Team didn't even get a chance to attack because the noise was so damn obnoxious that some of them even collapsed. It was that painful to them. So basically, it was that how it came in, and basically Shadow Dash took over their whole ship. Poseidon was their new home, like I explained in the last stream, but because it was now but because of all the dark magic that was inside it, it was a scary, scary, scary situation. Because with this dark magic, this was enough to revive Dark Sparkle a third time. All it takes is dark magic, and Twilight and Dark Sparkle could be, boom, brought back from the dead within the snap of a finger. The only thing is that it has to be done correctly without interference. And because Shadow Rainbow Dash was created by Dark Sparkle, she knows exactly how to do it. Because at the time, Dark Sparkle always stated, in the wake of an emergency, if something happens to me, do this ritual around when there's magics that represent me, and I will be back. And that's exactly what she did on board the Poseidon. And that's how Dark Sparkle was able to take over Godzilla Team's own home. Because Shadow Rainbow Dash was able to knock Godzilla Team out with the painful emitter long enough to conduct the ritual. But unfortunately, she would have no idea that Scootaloo, who was a teenager at this time, actually saw this and reported it to Princess Twilight Sparkle and the main six who showed up. Now, here's the thing. Remember how in the original series, Twilight Sparkle was set to become the ruler of Equestria? Now, in this portion, it doesn't happen because at the time, the reason I don't have that happening is because no brony actually liked the end of the show. Nobody liked it. And sure, you're gonna probably have like a couple of people that did, but a large majority did not like it. They did not like it. It was criticized from top to bottom. So because of that, Twilight Sparkle is no longer the ruler of Equestria. She is still a princess, but she's actually still the princess of magic at the time. Now, it was at now, like I stated in the actual previous live stream, I mentioned that Twilight Sparkle at one point was actually told, hey, by Princess Celestia and Princess Luna, that she could actually inherit the throne and become the ruler of Equestria because she had proven herself like she did in the series. However, unlike the series, where it became a controversial decision and she agreed to it, in this one she says no. So basically, yeah, she chooses not to do it, and she's basically still the princess of friendship, and she still resides in Equestria. She no longer resides in Canada. She's still in Ponyville. So yeah, she's no longer the ruler. But basically, the whole origin of Dark Sparkle is sick and twisted because it was basically known to prove and reveal who Twilight Sparkle's original side used to be in the show. The only difference is that Dark Sparkle's version, even though it was a mix of all of Twilight Sparkle's bad emotions in the original show, in the beginning of Friendship is Magic, it was revealed that Dark Sparkle's attempts were far worse than the original Twilight Sparkle's rudeness and incompetence in the early seasons of Friendship is Magic. So tragically, during that time period when Dark Sparkle was created, it was known as the darkest portions of history, close to the Crystal Empire disaster. And basically, Dark Sparkle, she was also able to conceive children by creating Shadow Rainbow Dash. And to add insult to injury, she would also go as far as creating dark and evil versions of the main six. So now this girl is not just a mother of Shadow of one girl now. She's now a mother of four others now. So basically, there is scary situations at this time period. That is why 2066 was so important. Now, here's the problem. Even though Shadow Dash and Dark Sparkle were defeated yet again, unlike previous events where Dark Sparkle was immediately eliminated, unfortunately, this time she was able to escape this time. So tragically, yes, she's actually alive beyond 2066, unlike in 2039 and 2051, where she was actually destroyed by Twilight Sparkle. So unfortunately, we don't know what's going to happen with Dark Sparkle now because after the 2066 incident, which, like I stated, we're still looking for people to animate, with SFM. And unfortunately, I cannot pay anybody. I have a bad budget. So, yeah, I was literally screwed on Twitter at one point where two people volunteered to do animations, but they literally expected me to pay them like 1,000 something dollars for each one, including several $100, which I couldn't do. I get only 700 something dollars per month as an SSI check. And majority of that stuff drains quickly because it goes to my bills, it goes to trying me to survive. If I were to pay off any of these people, I would not have anything. So basically that is one of the biggest problems of what is causing this to occur. Many people try to say just learn SFM, source filmmaker. I can't. The tutorials are hours long and it takes an eternity to figure everything out. And with me suffering from learning disabilities, it is very, very, very hard to do that. It really is. So the best thing I could do when it comes to source filmmaker is make pictures like the ones I previously showed you with the SS Royal and the picture of Rivera looking out at the SS Royal from the Poseidon. That's the only thing I could show you. That's the only thing I could do. I can't do anything more with source filmmaker. And I can't use Go Animate either because it's impossible to do Godzilla and Go Animate. That's impossible. So I can't do that. The best thing I could do is, continue to pray and, make sure that things, actually go my way soon. But yeah, basically that's basically all I have to say for now because you all now know the origins of Dark Sparkle, how she came to be, who she is as a character, along with Shadow Rainbow Dash's creation and who she is as a character. She's basically no different than the originals, only far evil and far more rude. So I'm thank you all for sticking by me, and I'm happy that all of you decided to take part and listen to my second portion of this story. And I hope you all have a great day. Peace out, YouTube.